Good evening. This is Talking Devils. I'm Wayne Barton, joined by Tony Bryson and Mike Pieri. We are here to talk about Liverpool 1, Manchester United 2, to run our thoughts over the tactical masterclass that was Ruben Amorim's win at Anfield. We all saw that coming, right? Before we get to that, I'll just go through the lads. Tony, how are you doing? You good?
I'm very good, mate. Very good. Nice week. Nice few days in London. Can't afford a week in London. A nice few days in London last week. Thanks for the shout out about going to Matilda. Last week it was the second best show. I saw that last week. The first one being Arne Slot's post match interview. The long balls. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, we're glad you've come back, Tony. We thought you might have taken up theatre reviewing.
Well, I actually have, mate, but we'll plug that later on.
Also joined by Mike Pieri. How are you doing, Mike? You all right?
I'm good. Yeah, great result. I actually watched it in a Chicago Bears themed bar in central London. So I went with my son. We're big Bears fans, but we end up watching it in a bar amongst. We're the only two cheering when United are scoring. Everyone's thinking, "What's going on here?" But we're watching the United game. So United won and the Bears won, and we got on the Chicago Bears website as well. So which was great. So great weekend.
Yeah, I saw that. Very nice. Nice work, Mike. I guess best place to start. No, best place to start isn't with Arne Slot. The best place to start is Wayne plugging stuff. So if you don't mind, I'll take a minute just because I've got my new book here and I would not be using my platform correctly if I didn't use it to plug my work. So everyone who has been following me mercilessly this year has seen me tweeting about Football Talk by Matt Busby. I'm just going to give it another plug here because I just want to talk about how proud I am of both of these books. So first of all, this one, which is a behemoth of a book, by the way. If you get that on, get it on Amazon, it's like 440 pages. It says it's 350, and it's not. It's a proper massive doorstopper. I'm really, really proud of that. It's like a decade's worth of work that's gone into that. But also the new book that's coming out in a couple of weeks, which is called Manchester United After Munich. And I got my copies of it last week. Look at how shiny it is on the front there. Oh, it's so beautiful. I tell you. So that's a book that's about United after Munich, obviously, but it concentrates mainly on the first 5 years after the crash. The likes of Alex Dawson and Mark Pearson, the lads who came in after the disaster, and more besides them. Jimmy Nicholson, who died recently, gets a big shout out in the book as well. I say shout out, it's what the kids say, isn't it? But a big description, a lot of talk about him. To talk about the contribution of those players that came in, and most of them were gone by 63 by the time that United won an FA Cup. And I always thought, there's nothing really that goes into United history that goes into proper detail about what they did and what they contributed, because it's worth more than medals, because it is something that helps the club survive. That's out 6th of November, and available to order everywhere. And it is a beautiful book. The guys who worked on it with me at Bloomsbury, Matt and Sarah, the editorial team, are just superb. It's been so lovingly crafted from my manuscript and their work on it. So I'm really, really proud of it. Anyway, also really proud of United having won 2-1 at Anfield on Sunday. Someone who's not very happy is Arne Slot, because this is what we'll start with, his post-match comments. Comes out, goes into a press conference. He's like, United playing long ball and the low block. Incredible comments, really. Martin O'Neill went for him on TalkSport. He was like, I expected to go into the dressing room and say something like, this is the way that we're going to play, or something like that. T2 says, evening lads, I hope you are talking about how grossly unfair it was for Amorim to pick a team that Slot wasn't expecting. We really should offer to replay the game. Yeah, I saw the Paddy Power piece on that as well, which is quite funny. For them, to be fair, they do bounce with a Z quite well sometimes. But yeah, so he's gone in. He's very unhappy with United's tactics. But you look at the long ball stats, and they're not. I mean, United played 10 more than Liverpool. It wasn't that bad, and really most of those are the goalkeepers. And do you call it a long ball if the goalkeeper's kicking it long? Is that what we've that's long ball tactics now, is it? I always thought a goal kick is a goal kick or a goalkeeper kicking a kick. It doesn't really classify itself as long ball play, really. Tony, you were chomping at the bit when I put the show notes together. This was your thing. You really want to make sure that we talked about. You got some numbers as well. So talk us through how happy you are with Arne Slot's post-match reaction.
I'm delighted because it just shows how rattled with 4 L's he is. And he should be, because he's taken, for all the plaudits he got last season for winning the league with somebody else's team, he's now spent nearly $500 million bringing his own players in and made the team worse. So if we can make him combust like that, a wee lowly mid-table team like ours, it makes me delighted with 4 L's. I just find bizarre comments. The comment, Martin O'Neill probably primarily goes after the idea that we expected them to start Šeško and they didn't.
Yeah.
And then secondly goes after the comment that they're a long ball team. I mean, I said to you in the group chat earlier on, it was very Kloppy of Slot to say that. I remember Jurgen Klopp, I can't pick out individual games, but almost talking like he was insinuating that teams should go to Liverpool and play really open, expansive football and get melted off of them.
So, Tony, I actually remember Klopp making that exact statement that United played too many long balls at Anfield. I think it was Mourinho 0-0 draw or something. And I mean, the stats over the season at that point had proved that United played 20 more or something like that. And I think the difference was in that game. So if you took that game out of it, they'd been exactly the same. It was just, it's happened before.
Well, Liverpool should be used to. I mean, you get no plaudits or pats in the back for going to Anfield, playing really open and getting scudded off of them. There's no plaudits in that for anybody, and we've had a couple of doings there over the years. So it's the sign of a coach who's starting to feel the heat a bit. I've really loved, and I thank the team from last season for not having any European football, because I feel like I'm getting an extended run at the memes and all that because we don't have a game this week. So it's been delicious. I've got a lot of Liverpool fans who've given me a lot of stick, a lot of mates, who are Liverpool fans. So this week's been great. To go back to your point, what does Arne Slot expect us to do? Go there, be open, get battered, so that he can say, they're a good side, but thanks for the 3 points up the road. It's not the case. Thanks for the 2 pretty soft goals they gave us and the multiple chances that they missed. It was very, very kind of them. And they've made one Scottish guy a very, very happy Scottish guy this week.
Probably 2. I can imagine Sir Alex, after he's finished his chocolate buttons, will be although if Kenny's nicked them all. Mike, what did you...
Yes.
I mean, obviously we're going to talk about the game, but Arne Slot's comments, what did you make of that?
Yeah, I think what Tony said, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he's under pressure, and he must be, because they're champions, they're at home, they've just spent £500 million, and one of his, a record fee player, he's left him on the bench. His other player did next to nothing, record fee. He must be feeling the pressure, and to lose to your biggest rivals, we're not in great form. Yes, we beat Sunderland. It just smacks of desperation. I'll be interested to see what happens this evening, obviously, where this is going out as the Champions League games are playing. If they don't have a good result and then they go into the weekend off another poor result, the pressure will be cranked up, definitely. But on the long balls, I wanted to look into this. You touched on it, Wayne. What is a long ball? And apparently, according to Opta, a long ball is a pass that travels further than 32 meters. That's what's considered a long pass or a long ball. And apparently, we were successful a quarter of the time at the weekend, which is quite high. because generally 32 meters or more in this era is from a goal kick, and that's usually a percentage rather than an actual pass. So I just wanted to find out what a long ball actually is, and that's the definition.
So Beckham was hit a long ball rather than a long pass. Scholes, long pass, long ball.
Exactly. Yeah. Long ball, long pass. Yeah.
He didn't
depends if
Beckham.
Yeah.
It was just long balls.
Yeah.
Just long balls into the box onto York's head.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of long balls without thinking of Larry David. If anyone remembers those episodes of Kirby Enthusiasm. But anyway, it's an interesting. Mike's gone. He knows where I'm going with that.
Nice.
So, but it is funny because if you look at the if you looked at the game, the way that they talked about that as well, the long passes that were going out, the design on that was to hit them long for the centre backs to wear them down, knowing that and then pick up the second ball. And United were incredibly effective at that. In fact, that's literally where the first goal came from. In fact, it came through two areas. When we talked about it, let's pat ourselves on the back here, Mike. Tony abandoned us. Tony, the expert, while he's down on the West End, we thought, well, what's the best thing we can come up with was, well, probably put Mbeumo on Van Dijk and move Sesko over to Canate, or maybe just leave him redundant in that fight to have the space around Van Dijk. And that's precisely what happened. The long pass and then Mbeumo behind him. And that's how we got the opening goal. So I don't know. I mean, I know that my net was dodgy connection last week, so I don't know if Amorim was able to catch all of it or whether he just watched it and it gave him an inkling of an idea. But that's where the goal came from. So, I mean, there's two aspects to that. Is first of all that they were unable to deal with the tactic, and that it's actually a tactic that exposed a little bit of their weakness in terms of not being able to get that second ball, which is surprising considering how basic it is. And the second one being the exploitation of the areas around Van Dijk, when everyone has been talking about, again, him being the best defender of all time and everything like that, and how easily it was to cut through and get the opening goal. So, I mean, if you think about it, Tony, that goal, the opening move of the match, dictated the pace and the flow of the entire rest of the match because it enabled United to play the way that they wanted to play. And as much stick as we've given Amorim on this podcast, the one thing we've never been able to say, and we never have said, is that he's never gone somewhere and not tried to impose his style on it. When he's got it wrong, and he's got it wrong spectacularly sometimes, we've talked about that as well, but he's still tried to play his way and tried to have that win the game. And it certainly did on Sunday, and it worked very effectively from that first move. It's not always going to work in the first minute. And that really did influence the pattern of the game, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But you score, how many seconds was it into the game? Was it like 70 seconds or something like that we scored?
62, I think. Yeah,
62, right. So 62 seconds into the game. So everything that you've planned for as the home team, it goes out the window then. So at that moment, it would have been irrelevant who was starting, because you're now 1-0 down and you know what the away team's going to do. Even if it's going to be Manchester United or anybody else, you go 1-0 up at Anfield, you've got a lead to hold on to. You'll sit back and you'll hit in the counter. And we have spoken about from pod 1 that we did with us that we are now a team that's set up that it suits us to play on the counter because we have pace and power in front areas. And I think we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of it in the game. I think Liverpool looked worried. The chance where it's cut back to Bruno and he hits a post. In the last 10 years, I don't think there would have been a game where Liverpool centre-backs would have spent so much time facing their own goal. I know Liverpool had a lot of the ball and etc., but we turned them a lot. We played behind them a lot. We got them facing their own goal a lot, which anybody who's played as a centre-half at any level will tell you. You don't want to be facing your own goal. As little as possible for that, please. And that's been a big criticism of mine, that we've not really put Virgil van Dijk under pressure at Anfield. We've never managed to lay a glove on him. So to score that early makes it brilliant. Makes it brilliant for us as a team because we then get something to hold on to, and it can suit us playing in the spaces. And that comes from Mbeumo and Cunha. These two guys are shaping up. If we can now go on a wee bit of a run, I know the guy with the big hair is hoping that we can get to 5 wins in a row, but I'll just take 3 wins in a row because we've been poor against Brighton recently. I think Mbeumo and Cunha and the likes of that give us a lot more, because I think if it's still been Hoyland, despite having the tools to run the channels and run behind and pace to threaten, he spent too much time coming to the ball.
We'll get on to Cunha in a minute. I want to talk about him specifically, but I'll come to you, Mike, about the performance overall and the tactical approach and how well Amorim did. So obviously there's a lot of different things to unpack from that. But the performance itself and the success of Amorim, what he set out to do, I mean, it's fairly self-evident in the result, because the result is the first thing. The performance, we thoroughly deserve to win. Don't care about the stat. And by the way, if we're going to start characterising teams by the stats, why don't we just call Liverpool a crossing team with like 40-odd crosses or whatever? You know, like if we're going to be derogatory about the way. And by the way, one thing that we mentioned in our little WhatsApp prep group, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this on this podcast where it was Pep Guardiola had played a few long balls in his team, and suddenly long ball was on vogue again. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful. Isn't Guardiola great for revolutionising football?" The Arsenal might have scored a long ball goal, and then City scored one. It was like, "Oh my God, football, isn't it great when Guardiola does something?" And United are currently they turn their eyes to long balls for a little bit, and then they get this absolute castration from Slot and the press. Like, you know what? It's beautiful when we do it. Is it just when the other teams do it? Anyway, that's my little rant about that, over and done with. But yeah, successful tactics. Mike, we have criticised Amorim on this pod, so let's give him his flowers for because he absolutely got it right.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think any of us here would have seen that starting lineup and thought, yes, we're going to go there and go for it. I mean, I got absolute egg on my face with a tweet that I did, and a friend of mine, Rodri, actually retweeted it with them, ha 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 ha. And you know, who am I to know better than a professional manager? Obviously, we have our opinions, but he got it right in so many different ways. Yeah. The fact that United weren't competing for that first duel, and time after time after time got that second ball, you know, I mean, as any of us who've played football at any level, not the analysis at your level, let alone your analysis at your level, Tone. Sometimes it's just percentage football, isn't it? But this was methodical. This was planned for. Get Mbeumo tight, get that second ball. But it's the way that players around there surrounded it. And I thought, oh, okay, that looks interesting. And it happened again, then again, then again. And if that was Amorim, who didn't adapt in game to something like that, which was pretty obvious, don't have to be a tactical genius or know football inside out. Slot didn't adapt at all. Didn't adapt at all. And another thing which I liked about Amorim was that against Sunderland, against a team which, you know, perceived, you know, less of a threat than Liverpool, he played 4-4-2 out of possession. Whereas against Liverpool, it was more of a 5-4-1, because he identified or knows that those spaces in between the lines, those half spaces where Liverpool are dangerous, where Salah pops in from the right and Gakpo from the left, that was completely nullified. So for me, yes, you're absolutely right, Wayne. You know, Amorim deserves his flowers, and, you know, big thumbs up, big well done, and thoroughly deserved win. And he outthought Slot, and Slot didn't have an answer to it. He actually didn't.
Yeah. Sonny?
It's just it's popped into my head there. You're absolutely right. They've got to give Amorim and his staff the credit for that. Like when we're prepping for who we're going to play at the weekend, or when I'm prepping videos, I'm looking at the last 10 goal opportunities they've given up, and I'm watching all the videos, and I'm trying to see a pattern or a weakness. And then if I can see that, I'll then go secondary and look for more of it in the goals that they've conceded. And that'll give me, right, they're giving up chances with this and they're conceding goals because of this. That'll go in the video. That'll be something, that's an area that we can target. That's an area we can look at. That's something that we can exploit. I don't know the process at Manchester United. They've got an awful lot more staff than we do. But the process is probably only that different because you're looking for little things, little percentages, the big system stuff. We know how Liverpool are going to play. You know how Amorim's going to play. You're looking for habits and trends and patterns of where you can get chances. And unfortunately for Liverpool, Kanate and Van Dijk are giving up more space than they used to. As we've said before, Father Time stops for no man in this pod. The same thing is happening with Virgil van Dijk. We see it with Mo Salah, and we've seen it. We've said it about Casemiro on our side. We exploited it. That's professional football. That's what our jobs are. So it's actually, I know we kind of take the mick a wee bit, but it's actually laughable for a manager of that level to come out with a comment such as the ones that he was talking about with Šeško, because that's what the job is. That's trying to exploit every detail. So congratulations to Amorim, and I would probably say his coaching staff, his analysis staff, and everybody that would have been involved with targeting that area. The recruitment guys for having players that can exploit it in the squad as well.
Yeah, it's funny we talk about adapting to in-game stuff because like in the Sunderland game, we were on this pod talking about how Sunderland adapted in the first half, made the change, and completely nullified the way that we were able to really play and create chances for the rest of the game. We only had that Bruno chance after they made the change, really. Anything of note to speak about. So yeah, and I've said many times that I feel sometimes United under Amorim have been frustratingly simple because you can telegraph it as a supporter from the pitch, and that means that when you can telegraph that they're going to make the change, and then they do, and when United are frustrated, you can more or less guess all the subs that Amorim's going to make. I definitely don't want to turn this into a bashing episode for Amorim because we're giving him loads of praise, and I want to concentrate on that. The point being that for Slot to come out afterwards and complain that United just didn't play to their strengths, they're complaining about not playing Šeško was just absolutely. I mean, it's not really a complaint, but like they plan for. I mean, you plan for every eventuality. Do you know what I mean? Like, was it Ferguson who used to say whoever were playing in Europe, he never trusted whatever they were saying. He had a deep mistrust about what they'd say about. He'd say, "Oh, they come over and they've said this and this player's injured." And I don't believe it. And he also made some notorious comments in there, like if it's the Italians, he'd check the source and stuff like that, and Germans, like I know those were comments of the time as well in the 90s, but it shows the point that he didn't trust the opposition manager. So why? He's just thinking, oh, you've played these players, why are you not going to play them this time around? He does it actually, not wanting to sort of ring the alarm bells for Liverpool. He said that they're playing tonight in some competition that I've not heard of for a while. I just thought, it's Premier League football this season. It's good that they brought Match of the Day on for the last couple of weeks as well, because that's been missing for a while.
Yeah. Wayne, just on that point that you mentioned, I would have loved it if Amorim came out and said, "Well, I've heard what Arne Slot's just said. We expected Wirtz to play." I would have loved him to have come out with that. That would have been amazing. That would have set. But that's the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they think like it is like, and this is a sort of diversion from this, but when you hear people talk about Maguire and they go like, "Oh, he's big forehead." Keane did it in his post-match stuff for Sky, and then he sort of backed down on it after. He's like, "Oh, I shouldn't." Like he could tell that he shouldn't have said it. Why is it fair game to say stuff like that? Do you know what I mean? Just don't say stuff like that. Like I don't know. It's strange for them to come out and say the things that they say. And be so, everyone's got an opinion on how United are falling apart, but no one's like, there to sort of give the praise afterwards, or to do the same for Liverpool, like how difficult they've been. It really stuck in. If you, it would have been difficult for you to hear the comms, Mike, but when Van Dijk obviously was having a difficult game, wasn't having the easiest of times, and Carragher knew it on his commentary, and he was doing everything he could to talk up
deflect.
everything positive that he was doing it. And obviously, he can't do anything about Van Dijk's performance. It is what it is on the pitch, but the way that he was, like, I think Liverpool had an attack. It might have even been the attack from which they scored, and he was like, and it all started from Van Dijk, and it's like, come on, he had nothing to do with that. You know, like, that's what you do when you see it. You know, look, they've committed a lot of money to those long-term contracts on Van Dijk and Salah, and they're starting to might be in the first misstep that they've made, and hopefully, from a competitive point of view, it's the first of many. Couple of comments to get to before we go on to the next point here. Matt, evening, Matt. Hope you're doing well, mate. And T2 says, one of my main criticisms of United over the years is that they're poor on second balls and duels. To make that a key point of your strategy away at Anfield and make it work is brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah. So to even say, like, we're going to give this part up, but anticipate where they're a little bit overconfident and catch them in possession, just and to get it in the pockets of space in which they did, because I mean I've not got the midfield on the notes for tonight, and I really should, considering the next point I'm going to talk about. But the way that we got around that was just, like we've already said, expert planning. So I want to talk about a couple of individual performances here. First of all, I just want to talk, for us, we're going to talk about Cunha, but I'm just going to run through a couple of the players here because I want to make sure that they get their credit as well. Harry Maguire, evidently brilliant, arguably man of the match. He was absolutely sensational. Not a foot wrong in the entire game, did everything right. Great anticipation from Amorim that Slot was just going to play the crosses, because he was a lighthouse in there and just headed everything away. I don't have the stats there, but I'm pretty sure he did a lot of that. Luke Shaw, big point we made on the pod last week. We were talking about how this game is there for Shaw to just fold in front of Salah because of the way that Shaw's been playing and the way that Liverpool's system should have exploited that space. But fair play to Shaw. All right, Salah was really poor, but Shaw also played a part in that, so we've got to give him his praise for that. Other individual performances, Lomans in goal, again, competence, basic competence, but it's more about the composure, and he passed through that test at Anfield. Not the noisiest crowd, but he passed through that test no problem whatsoever, just like it was a reserve team game. He was very, very confident. And the one, I don't think he could do anything about the goal, but the one chance that he did have to save with his feet, he did so well. The big chance that he had to deal with. Good performances elsewhere on the pitch, obviously. Brian Mbeumo as well. And Fernandes did very well until the last 25 minutes. They started to tire a bit in the role as he loses discipline a bit. And Kobe was about to come on. Another masterstroke of management here. Amorim just waited that beat, just waited a minute. Let Fernandes take the corner, let him deal with that passage of play, and then bring Kobe on afterwards. When I would have hauled Bruno off because he made two errors of judgment in the middle of the park that I thought, oh God, this is going to cost us. Amorim waited, got the timing right, and Kobe did a decent job when he came in as well. Anyway, I want to talk about Cunha, and the reason why is because I did a tweet, guys, and people don't like my tweet. It hasn't gone down well. I said, maybe a little bit excited. And obviously what I mean is Cunha, in my opinion, is the most talented player we've had since Fergie retired. Now, I'm not saying his contribution is already better than what Bruno Fernandes has done. His contribution, quite rightly, has been pointed out, isn't better than Mbeumo's so far. It's not better than De Ligt's. It's not better than De Gea, who's been a player since Ferguson. There are other players in there, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's come in and done quite well. So there are obviously players who've come in and already had this much bigger contribution than what Cunha has got. My point is that based on talent, based on my projection of what I think he's going to do, bear in mind that I thought Varane was going to be brilliant for us, and I still won't hear any Varane slander on this podcast, that I think he's going to be the best player that he's in terms of talent, in terms of the way that he moves with the ball, in terms of everything that he does, is that little bit of bite, the little snarl about him, his quality. And yes, he hasn't set up a goal or scored one yet, There's just something in him that screams, I'm a Manchester United player and I'm going to elevate everyone in this team in a way that, and I'm not saying that Bruno doesn't do that, but in my opinion, when I look at those players, this is just exactly the same kind of argument if you prefer Lowe or Rooney or Van Nistelrooy as strikers or Ronaldo. You just got a different opinion of something that you like that gets you off your seat and you go, oh, that's a player that looks like a United player to me. That's the one for me. I just look at him and I think that he's got everything that I want to see in a United player, and he's the kind of player that can transform this team in exactly the same way that Bruno did when he came in. So, like, people are reading that tweet and saying they think it's a comparison to Bruno, and it is in a roundabout kind of way because I'm comparing him against everyone else, but it's not criticism of those players. I think Bruno's fantastic. I don't need to document my love for Kobe any more than I have done. I think he's up there. And obviously, then Bumo's been brilliant as well. Obviously, all these players are brilliant. I just prefer Cunha as a player. And I thought on Sunday, without being brilliant, was so effective. It was a masterstroke of a selection as well to not play Šeško, to play Cunha through the middle, the way that he carries the ball, his strength, his ability to keep hold of the ball in difficult areas, to make the right decision, to even make the wrong decision. Like when he went through for the corner when we won the game, I was like, take the shot, and he waited too long, and then we got the corner, and obviously we score from it. But everything about him, I thought it was. I'm talking like I thought it was a 7 or 8 out of 10 performance from Cunha, but he was a magnificent 7 or 8 out of 10. I don't know any better way to articulate that unless you've watched the amount of football that we've watched, and you've watched all these players that we've watched over the generations. And I'm going back to like your Robsons and your Whitesides and your Cantonas, the players who have such an impression on football matches. And he's one that we've got, and he was so good and he was so effective for me on Sunday. And I thought it was tactically effective as well. Tony, it's a big call from the manager to not play. And let's not say he's dropped Šeško, but he's decided to play Cunha through the middle for a tactical reason. And it worked because everything good that we had in open play seemed to come through, or he was involved in everything that was good in what we were doing, apart from the goal itself, the first goal itself. And he was probably involved somewhere in that. But I thought he was very, very effective in a way that we haven't seen in those kind of big games over the years, because what we've seen too often is United win on counters. We've won on counters, but never looking like a Fergie team winning on counters where we're still imposing our style. We had a style to go on the counter, but we also imposed our style on the game as well. And all that was due to the performance of Cunha through the middle, I thought, as the outlet. Obviously, I'm being very generous. Am I being too generous?
I wouldn't say you're being too generous. I do enjoy watching your tweets, and I don't enjoy all the interactions that people give you because some of them are beyond the pale. But some of them are it is entertaining sometimes because you're like what's the Robson and Jerome with the fishing, but you're able to just pull these guys out of nowhere, and they bite every time. The Cunha comment, I totally get what you mean. I mean, we've got to give you your due. You're one of the most prominent Manchester United historians there is right now. I don't know anybody that's wrote more books than you have. So when you're commenting about a player, it's not through a having watched the team for 5 years and never been to the ground. You know what you're talking about. And what you mean, I think, or how I took it was, Cunha fits a Manchester United jersey.
Yeah.
We've watched players drown.
Yeah.
And we've used the comment that the Manchester United jersey is a heavy jersey and some players can't cope with the weight of it. Cunha looks like he was born, or in his footballing career was meant to be here.
Yeah.
It looks like he grows in the Manchester United jersey. And what that gives you tactically, people are so black and white on Twitter. Yeah, he's no assisted directly a goal, and he's not scored a goal yet. But anybody with two eyes who's watched football can tell you the influence that he's having on the team. He's a ball carrier. He gets you up the pitch. He joins the game up in a way that other players have failed to do for us in the past. Even Bruno. Bruno, as I've said in the past, a bit of a one-man band. Cunha fits in as either the bass player or the drum player in the band. Do you know what I mean? You can't play the music without him. He is going to be, I've no doubt in my mind, an incredibly influential player for us. And there's a famous quote up here for Jockstein that the Celtic jersey doesn't shrink to fit inferior players. I feel the same about Manchester United. Like, that jersey's you're not going to get any quota given to you because you were a good player for Wolves. You've got to come here and do it. And I feel like he enjoys that.
Yeah.
And tactically, how that comes out in the game, when you go to hard places like Anfield, and we've had the quotes for the class of 92, they hated going to Anfield, it was horrible. Cunha will take the ball anywhere.
Yeah.
And he'll carry the ball anywhere. And what he was able to do on Sunday for us was release the pressure. He's a pressure valve. Give him the ball. He'll carry it for 5-10 seconds and get you up the pitch. Try and win your foul. He won't cheaply give the ball away. So he's influencing the team that way has already started to pay dividends for us in terms of how the team perform round about him. And I only think it's a matter of time before he starts putting up the numbers. And when he starts putting up the numbers, Wayne, there's no argument against him.
Yeah.
Because the sample size he's been judged on is what are we talking? 12 Premier League games?
Yeah.
No European football. Out of the Cup early, still not in the FA Cup. And people are saying, how can you say that? Well, we've just told you all the reasons why we can say that.
Yeah.
I think Cunha's a very influential player and will continue to be. And I think he will be for a long time for us.
Yeah, he had the injury as well, and so missing the City game, and probably now we've seen how we played at Anfield, you can see that he would have been pivotal in that game. He's also, because he's been injured, a couple of those appearances have been sub appearances as well. So I'm not worried about anything really. T2 saying they agreed on Cunha. It won't show up on stats, but he made sure we hung on in the last 20 minutes. He dragged us up the pitch. He looked like he belonged on the stage. He's a poop house as well, and I'm not swearing. Dave already gave us explicit content podcast this week for no reason as well. For good reason. We won at Anfield twice. He dropped the S-bomb, but I'm not going to do that. But T2, trying your best to do that. I still love him. Yeah, that's the other thing, Mike. The thing that maybe is because that's what I love about football is that the unquantifiables, the players who make you look away from the spreadsheet and they do the other things. And Bruno is one of those players, and it wasn't a comparison. I know like they're all coming out, and most of them, I'd say 70% of them are Bruno fans who think, like the Player FC ones who just think I'm going in on Cunha. I'm really not. I love him. And part of what I was saying when I was leading into this point was, I know I'm going to talk about an individual here. And last week I was talking about maybe not Bruno has the discipline to play in that role again. And he was good on Sunday until that last 35 minutes when he was tired and he was really bad or really sloppy. I always feel like, and I do feel like it, to be honest, you've got to understand from my point of view, I understand that I'm critical to Bruno, but I don't mean to be because I do love him so much. And it's like there are things that he does. The assist is one of them. The other players just won't try on the pitch, and I love him for that. That's the kind of player that I do love at United. But there's just something about Cunha, and it's a preference thing only. It's not an absolute definition of me going, he's a better player. It's just my preference. When I look at him, I just think, good, he's so beautiful to watch. And the way, like Tony was saying about that, about the other players have sort of in the past have said, oh, we're almost afraid of going to Anfield. He looked like he turned up to that game and he's like, "Oh my god, I get to play for United at Anfield, and I'm gonna run the show." And all right, he didn't run the show, but he did what he could to do that, influence it in the best way that he could. And it isn't measured in numbers really, but we all saw how good he was, Mike. I might like you've seen the furore after all the stuff that I've put. But we're talking about how he did tactically. This is the point of this podcast. So how do you think he did on Sunday?
So I'm listening to both what you're saying, and I'm nodding. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. And sometimes, the old saying, football's not played on a piece of paper. Stats don't tell you everything, and the eye test is probably the best test. For me, when I look at Cunha's performance, I will compare it to if Rashford played in that position or if Garnacho played in that position, and the balls that would have been played into those two would have come straight back. They would have been played into midfield or into the fullback. So then you're inviting pressure, or you're playing in the middle third, or even in your defensive third. Cunha not only gets the ball, he wants the ball, he demands the ball, and he's turning. And as Tony said, he's pushing us up the pitch. And it's not just because there's space or because the defender has given him a couple of yards. He does it with the defender right on his back. He'll spin him and he'll go, or he'll take it and carry it horizontally, laterally along the pitch before cutting in or playing a pass. And that's what's beautiful about him. You get some players who are quietly efficient. Paul Parker, quietly efficient, 7 out of 10 every game. Dennis Irwin, quietly efficient, 7 or 8 out of 10 every game. Cunha is a 7 or 8 out of 10 in every game, but he's not quietly efficient. He's visibly, physically, and in your face efficient. He gets that ball. It's mine. I'm going with it, and I'm pushing us forward. And that's what's stark between what we've had and what United have now got. And I think as the season goes on, you're going to see far, far more output from him and because of him. Because what that does when he gets the ball, well, if we go back to the Rashford and Garnacho point I made, so if Rashford got the ball or Garnacho got the ball and played it back, defender's done his job. Don't have to do anything. If Cunha gets the ball and he keeps it and runs with it, he's attracting one player, maybe another one, maybe a third player. So you're attracting players means other players have got spare, space and room. He'll play the ball. He'll do a little touch inside, and that's invaluable for the way we want to play. Yeah. So I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I knew you would be. We'll see. For people aren't fans of my, I do believe he'll come good. Like the quality of what he's got to show will be more evident in the way that more people will accept it. And I'm surprised, really, that that I've praised someone and it's got so much criticism. It's like, are we not all supporters wanting? We've all got different favourites, right? There will be people who think Dallow's a great fullback, and I don't. People who have different opinions on all of the players in the team, and that's great. That's point of everything. Mike and I a couple of years ago working on was it top 50 United players?
Yeah,
we went through the list and we were going through them all, and we disagreed on the placing of every single one, but we got there in the end. Do you know what I mean? It's the point, right? We say, well, we're not quite sure that they should be there. And it's right. That's the point of football. Is that, but you enjoy the conversation. You don't. I'm thinking I'm giving Twitter too much credit here. Matt says Cunha's not getting the goals or assists, but he's an important cog in the team. Receives the ball, turns and runs, and attracts the other team's players, making space for our own. Yeah, good point. And Steve, no relation, I don't think, maybe. Hope you're doing well. Good surname on you. Let's hope United keep the phone going. Yeah, for that lad to get his haircut as well. I mean, look, I'm on shaving my head until United win 5 in a row. For forevermore.
Or something like that. After the fifth game, you get magic beans, or are you going to Turkey?
Yeah, maybe. Let's talk about Brighton. Steve, obviously we want to keep win a third game in a row. Brighton have got such a good record at Old Trafford in recent years. They've won there's a graphic that goes up of like how many games out of the last 7 or something that they've won, and United have won 1. And although we were so unlucky there last season, we haven't been unlucky at Old Trafford. By the way, we've lost. Is it the last 3 on the bounce at Old Trafford we've lost, and they've outplayed us every single time. And a couple of those they've been embarrassing how much they've outplayed us. Like I remember, there was a game that United played in the It might have even been the Hungary-England game. I don't think it was. I'm sure it was the United game where one of the journalists called it football. It might be when United played Red Star in the 91 Super Cup. I can't remember where. I can't place this in my head. But one of the reporters called it football from another planet. And when I watched Brighton play, the way that they move the ball first time, the speed at which they move the ball, and when they used to have Dan Burn at centre back and they fizz the ball into him and then he'd hit a long ball and it'd be accurate. And how are Brighton able to get all these players playing like Brazil 1970? The way, maybe that's too much of an overstatement, but the speed and the technicality and the ability of the way that they've played every single time they've come to Old Trafford at least for the last 3 seasons when they've won, they've been a joy to watch. And I don't enjoy his getting beat. I don't mean that. I just mean their football is enjoyable to watch. Even when they're you're watching them beat us. It's not like you're not frustrated in the same kind of way against Liverpool, or you're not disagreeing with the plaudits for Guardiola. You just have to appreciate good football when you see it, and Brighton have been a really good example of that. Amorim's success has largely been in the away games that we've played, or teams that have been either playing the same system as we've played, or teams who've been slow to react to the same kind of system. Brighton, Tony, they're going to come to Old Trafford. They're going to play the way that they always play. Start of the season, which is generally when we tend to get them, is this time or a little bit earlier. And every single time I think, is this going to be the same kind of Brighton team? Have they run out of steam a little bit? I can't really tell so far. I don't, they're under a new direction again. And you're looking at them thinking, turnover of players, is it going to be the same kind of Brighton, or are they just losing a little bit of what they were? But they won at the weekend against Newcastle. They're not going to have any loss of confidence coming to Old Trafford. And this is a really big test. I know we say it every single week, but it is a big test for Amorim to get this one right.
Definitely. Obviously, the record's not good against Brighton. Wherever we play them, you've got Danny Welbeck, who is getting some shouts for being back in the England team. So he's playing really well. The stuff about Baleba. So if he's available and he plays, likely he'll play out of his skin. So it's not going to be an easy game. But like you say, it's a test for Amorim, and obviously Anfield was a test for him. Then he's come up with the answers. There's not been many big tests that he's passed, but Brighton is a tough game. I think when we looked at that record after we beat Sunderland, the fixtures after we beat Sunderland, I was thinking next 5 games are difficult. So Brighton's just another one. So we know how Brighton will play. They'll be fast, they'll be energetic, they'll try and play forward, they'll try and play through the thirds with the ball, they'll try and get at us, and they'll make it difficult. And we'll need to be on our game, and we'll need to be switched on at set pieces, which have been two issues we've had a lot. But our form at Old Trafford actually is starting to turn. If you start to look across the last 10 games, the record's getting a lot better. The performances have been pretty good. Unfortunately, I can't go to the game this weekend, but I will be watching. I'm looking forward to it. Brighton are a good test. They're a great, as you say, they seem to be able to regenerate squads. The recruitment's been absolutely top notch for a number of years, and we'll need to be at it on Saturday. So,
Mike, the key to Anfield obviously was, well, 2 of the keys: bringing in Maguire, putting Cunha through the middle. You feel like he's going to have to do something tactically against Brighton as well. He's going to have to mix it up a little bit.
I think he'll play Cunha off the left and Buemo on the right, and I think he'll play Šeška up top. I think that's what I'll do. I'll tell you who else played really well against Liverpool, and it'll be really important in this game, was Ahmad, before he got his booking. He progressed the ball really well as well, and was a threat, and he'd be quite important in this game because of the way that Brighton play. They usually play a 3-4-3 type system, don't they, or 4-3-3. Yeah. And there is space on the flanks because of the way they play. if you get past their midfield, and that's where Ahmad and whoever is going to play on the other side, I expect Ahmad to play. That could give us an opportunity to have some joy. But I think, Herzler may come out and say, well, I didn't expect him to play Šeško in this game because he didn't play him in the last game. So, so hopefully we got some of that, some more of that. But Brighton are in good form, actually, aren't they? I mean, they beat Newcastle last week. They drew with Wolves, beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
They're in good form and they score goals. And as you said, Tony, Danny Welbeck's in scoring form. He's in his goal at the weekend was a lovely goal, wasn't it? Little dink, beautiful goal, really good. And which is why he might play De Ligt through the middle rather than Maguire.
Yeah.
Although how can you not play Maguire after Sunday?
Well, I think this is where we'll see about the manager really, because those are the things that he's going to look at. And I do think, to be fair, in the past he has resisted things like that, and I can't think of specific examples off my head, top of my head, but I'm sure that there's been examples where he's just not curried favour. Like Mainoo's probably the best example of someone who's played well and then he's just not been inside the following week. Although he was, came on, I did bring him on to his credit, and he did all right for the closing stages at Anfield. I can't imagine that he'll start. So it'll probably be the same kind of team. Euro will probably get in. I mean, Maguire was selected for the crossing. Brighton don't really tend to do that, and he's a bit leaden-footed. And you can imagine that, the Brighton aren't. Even Welbeck is like 30 odd, and he's 35 or 35, and still slight of foot is just incredible. We love you, Danny. That's another player who gets you'll get all the love on this podcast. John saying here, just an interesting point to close on, because it's a fair point. It doesn't change much if it's not followed up this week. The bottom line is Liverpool hit the woodwork 4 times, and it's true. When the pessimist in me went, we're going to lose this one 3-1 when they equalised on Sunday. So credit to United for coming through it. But I mean, look, we've got to say over the last couple of games, the decisions are looking like the manager's looking like he's making the right decisions. And whether or not that's just 2 games, I don't know. That's what we're here to do. We're analysing it every single week, aren't we? And looking for patterns and hoping that we're going to start seeing running patterns. And it's difficult to establish a pattern when you beat Sunderland 2-0 and they've changed their system quite early on in the second half and it went a bit flat. And then you go to Anfield, which is always an outlier in itself. You look at it and say, well, it doesn't. In a bigger picture, in a bigger run of results, maybe it'll point some kind of pattern, but not after one game or the second game. It's just not going to work like that. That's what we're going to hopefully. And hopefully there'll all be positive things that we'll be talking about from now on. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for the pod this week. If you've enjoyed, if you can give it a like and subscribe on the platform you're listening on, if you can review, if you're listening back on the audio as well, and share it around on socials if you don't mind. Really appreciate that. That would be very, very pleasant. And that's it for this week. We'll be back next week to be reviewing that Brighton game, which I'm going to with my nephew, because it's his 11th birthday. I don't know if you're watching it, Freddie, but happy birthday, mate. Can't wait to spend 90 minutes watching you eat as many hot dogs as you can with stale bread. Hopefully there'll be more entertaining stuff on the pitch. Have a great week, guys, and we'll be back next week.